What are you waiting for to start? A sudden urge? A spark of inspiration? A sign from the universe? Listen, no sign is on its way. And every minute you wait, you are quietly handing over the power to decide your life to a temporary feeling, something that can change in the blink of an eye. I know this might sound harsh, but be honest. How many times have you said, I will start when I feel ready, and that readiness never came? How many times have you waited for everything to be perfect, only to realize that time has already left you behind? We often think we lack motivation, but the truth is, we lack structure. Motivation is like the weather, sunny one moment and rainy the next, while structure is the foundation, the thing that stays no matter how you feel today. People do not change their lives through fleeting bursts of excitement. They change them through what they put on the calendar, and they follow through even when their emotions say otherwise. That is why today I will talk to you about something that can free you from the endless loop of waiting, discipline, and structure, so you will no longer need a sign, because you will be the one to create it. Have you ever wondered why you still have not started, even though you have already made dozens of plans in your head? You tell yourself, when I feel ready, I will do it. But that day never comes. You wait for a signal, a rush of excitement, a moment when everything feels clear, as if the universe will send you a secret message saying, now is the time. And while you wait, time keeps moving, opportunities quietly pass by, and you remain in the same place. The truth is, waiting for a sign sounds smart, but in reality, it is a mask for procrastination. It is a way to justify avoiding responsibility, because starting means committing, and committing means risk, inconvenience, and stepping into territory you have never controlled. So you choose to wait, because the comfort of delaying feels much safer than the discomfort of taking action. But here's what people who change their lives understand. They do not wait. They do not look for inspiration to begin. They choose a time, and most of the time it is right now, then they put it on the calendar. They turn an idea into a plan into action, and that action becomes a fixed part of their day. Do you know what sets them apart? They do not gamble their future on temporary emotions. They know emotions are like the weather, changing suddenly without warning. If you let emotions decide when you work, you will live in a constant cycle, full of energy today and unable to lift a finger tomorrow. They understand that what you can trust is not emotion, but structure. Structure does not mean a rigid schedule or restrictive rules. On the contrary, it is the foundation that frees you from endless internal negotiations. When you have a schedule, you do not need to wake up every morning and ask, should I do this today? That question has already been answered. The decision has already been stamped. And when a decision is stamped, action becomes non-negotiable. The irony is that most people think having a schedule will take away their freedom, but in reality, it gives them the greatest freedom. Because when you are no longer controlled by your daily emotions, you are truly free to use your energy and focus on what matters. The problem is not that you lack ability or intelligence or dreams. The problem is that you are waiting for all the conditions to be perfect, which will never happen. The perfect time is a pleasant lie. It comforts you into believing that not starting yet is reasonable, when in fact, it only pulls you further from your goal. If you look back at any major step forward in your life, a project you completed, a new skill you learned, a big personal change, it was rarely when you felt completely ready. Most of the time, you still had doubts, hesitation, and fear that you were not enough. But you started anyway. And only after starting did clarity come, motivation came, confidence came. This is the rule. Action first, emotions follow. If you wait until you feel like doing it, you will get stuck in a never-ending loop of preparing without ever moving forward. Every day you wait, you are not only losing time, you are also adding another invisible weight, the guilt of not starting. The longer this guilt stays, the heavier it becomes, and the first steps that were already hard become even harder. This is why people who go far never let emotions decide their schedule. They let commitment decide. And when they commit, they protect it like a valuable asset. The best time to start is not when you feel ready, but when you decide to stop waiting. And that moment, if you choose, can be right now. What would happen if you stopped searching for inspiration and started searching for structure? In the next part, I will show you why the right schedule can free you more than any burst of inspiration ever could. If you have ever felt tired of yourself, tired of saying you will do it but never starting, then the next part will be the wake-up call you need. This is how to escape the emotional trap and take back control. Next, I will show you a simple method to turn commitment into action, and action into an unbreakable habit, even when you have zero motivation. When you let emotions take the lead, you are not just losing a few minutes of calm, you are handing over the outcome to something unreliable. Think back to the last time you reacted on impulse, words spilling out before you had time to think, a message sent in anger, a decision made while your mind was clouded with frustration. In that moment, you might have felt relief for a few seconds, but what came after? Regret, damage, opportunities shut down. Every time you react without thinking, you cut away a part of your credibility. At work, it can make colleagues lose trust in you. In your family, it can create cracks that are hard to repair. And within yourself, it can make you question your own ability to stay in control. The truth is, losing control is not just an isolated moment. It is a message you are sending, my emotions matter more than the results I want to achieve. And when that message repeats often enough, people begin to believe that you cannot be relied on. Have you ever thought about this? One careless word can destroy the credibility you have built over years. One reckless action can close a door you have waited your whole life to open. That is why people who truly go far never underestimate the power of calm. They understand that an impulsive reaction gives you only temporary relief, while a deliberate response gives you lasting results. Staying calm does not mean ignoring the truth or tolerating what is wrong. Calm means choosing the timing and the manner of your response, so it serves your goal, not your momentary feelings. You cannot stop others from saying what they want, but you can always choose how you will respond. And in the moment you keep that control, you keep the upper hand in the game. The problem is that most of us are not prepared for these situations. We react as if caught off guard, when in reality we could have trained for them. Just like an athlete does not wait until game day to start running, someone who wants to master their emotions does not wait until a challenge comes to learn how to respond. You have to practice it every day. In small situations like being stuck in traffic, being cut in line, or receiving an unpleasant email, every time you choose calm over anger, you send yourself a different message. I am in control of my emotions. And that message, when repeated, changes the way you see yourself. From there, you no longer have to force yourself to stay calm. It becomes a natural part of you. Think about it. If you could change just one thing, learning to pause, take a deep breath, and choose a deliberate response, how different would your life be? If you are reading this far, I want to ask you, what situation tested your patience the most this week? Share that story in the comments, and if what I have shared is helping you see things more clearly, hit like and subscribe so we can go deeper into mastering your reactions in the next parts. Curiosity hook. In the next part, I will reveal the secret of the power pause, a simple technique that can turn around the outcome of a conversation even when you are at a disadvantage. Emotional hook. If you have ever wished you could take back a word or an impulsive action, the next part will give you the tools so you never have to feel that regret again. Value hook. Next, I will guide you through 3 practical steps to shift from instinctive reactions to deliberate responses, and you can apply them in your very next conversation. There is a simple habit that people who master their emotions all use, and it is so powerful that it can completely change the course of a tense situation. I call it the power pause. This is not awkward silence or avoidance. It is a strategy that helps you pull the control back to your side, even when emotions are running high. When someone says something that makes you want to fire back immediately, your brain urges you, respond right now. The instinct to defend yourself, to prove you are right, to take back the upper hand. But if you follow that instinct, you often lose your greatest advantage, your clarity. The power pause is when you break the chain of instinctive reaction and give yourself a few precious seconds to assess, what do I really want from this conversation? Which response will get me closer to that goal? With just one moment of slowing down, you create the space for reason to step in between emotion and action. The interesting thing is that this pause does not make you weaker, it makes you harder to shake. When you do not respond immediately, you make the other person wait, guess, and wonder what you are thinking. And in that time, you are quietly building your advantage. I have seen this most clearly in the courtroom. There are lawyers who, when attacked, snap back instantly, exchanging words until they find themselves led into the opponent's rhythm. But the best ones do the opposite. They listen fully, pause, let the silence hang in the air for a few seconds, then respond with carefully chosen words. They do not let the other side decide the pace or the rhythm of the game. And you can do the same in any everyday situation, from the meeting room to the family dinner table. To apply the power pause, you need three things: awareness, intention, and practice. Awareness is noticing the signs in your body and mind when emotions rise: a faster heartbeat, a voice wanting to grow louder, hands clenching. Intention is reminding yourself that not every provocation deserves an immediate response. And practice is building this reflex into your daily life, starting with small situations so that when the big moments come, you are ready. The power pause has another benefit. It gives you the chance to choose a way of communicating that reflects the person you want to be, not the person your momentary emotions create. You will clearly see the difference. A sentence spoken in anger often damages a relationship, but a sentence chosen in calm can open the door to a solution. The power pause does not remove conflict, but it turns conflict into opportunity, an opportunity to prove you can control yourself even when you cannot control the situation. And when you repeat this often enough, people will start to see you as a steady anchor, someone who is not swept away by the storm, but knows how to navigate it. Remember, sometimes your greatest strength is not in adding more words, but in knowing when to pause. Because in that silence, you are not only keeping control, you are shaping the outcome the way you want. Many people confuse not responding with responding deliberately. They think silence means surrender, that if they do not reply immediately, they will lose control. But the truth is the complete opposite. Not responding can be avoidance, but a deliberate response is choosing the timing, words, and actions so they serve the ultimate goal, not just to soothe the ego in the moment. When you respond deliberately, you no longer let circumstances pull you along. You step out of the emotional spiral and into the position of an observer. From there, you choose the path that leads to the result you want instead of the one that leads to regret. This is the difference between someone who only wants to win a moment and someone who wants to win the whole game. A deliberate response is what separates ordinary people from those who have influence. Notice how the best leaders never answer right away when challenged under pressure. They pause, listen, sometimes jot down a few notes, and then reply in a calm yet sharp tone. They know that once words are spoken, they cannot be taken back, and each word carries the weight of shaping how others perceive them. The power of a deliberate response lies in shifting you from a reactive state to a proactive one. You are not waiting to see what others will do so you can react. You are shaping the game at your own pace. In communication, this is like being the conductor of an orchestra. You decide when to build to a climax and when to slow it down. It requires clarity and patience, but in return, it gives you a level of control no one can take away. Many people ask me, how do I train myself to respond deliberately when emotions are running high? The answer is that you must start with the smallest things. In a meeting, when someone says something you disagree with, try writing it down before replying. At home, if your child does something that frustrates you, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what will my next words teach them? When you do this consistently, your brain starts to form a new habit. Not rushing, not being pulled along, but always weighing the long-term impact. A deliberate response does not mean you become cold or indifferent. On the contrary, it makes you clearer in every word you speak because each reaction is placed within a larger context. What does this relationship need to improve? What does this goal require me to do to move closer to it? That is why those who are skilled at controlling their responses are often the most respected. They do not need to raise their voice to prove their strength because their calmness itself is a form of power. Remember, an instinctive reaction serves the emotions of the moment. A deliberate response serves the results that last. The difference here is the direction your life will take. A hasty answer can end an opportunity. A deliberate answer can open an entire door. And when you choose the second path, you are not just controlling the situation. You are redefining the person you want to become. Emotional discipline is not a gift you are born with. It does not simply appear because you have read a few books or listened to a few speeches. It is a skill, and like any skill, it must be trained, repeated, and practiced until it becomes second nature. Just like a muscle, if you do not exercise it, it will weaken. And just like a muscle, you cannot only train when you feel like it. You must keep going even when you have no motivation at all. Many people think they will learn how to stay calm on the day conflict happens, but that is a mistake. You cannot wait for the storm to hit before you learn how to steer the boat. You must practice while the waters are still calm. That is why I started building my emotional discipline from the smallest situations in daily life. When stuck in traffic, instead of honking in frustration, I remind myself this is practice. When standing in a long line at the supermarket, I practice slow breathing and observing my surroundings. When I receive a message that irritates me, I put my phone down, get a glass of water, and only then respond. Every small moment like this is another brick laid into the solid foundation of self-control. The magic here is that if you train yourself to remain calm in situations that seem unimportant, you will be able to bring that same calm into moments of real tension. This is because your body and mind have learned not to jump into immediate reaction. Emotional discipline not only helps you handle external conflicts better, it also helps you manage the battles inside yourself. It reduces stress, allows you to see things more clearly, and most importantly, it prevents you from destroying what you have built in a moment of weakness. Many people fail to stay calm because they see it as a big problem that should only be addressed when big problems arise. But the truth is, every loss of control starts with small habits that have been ignored. If you get easily angry over small matters, you will also lose control easily when something big happens. On the other hand, if you train yourself to stay calm over trivial things, you are building the foundation to stand strong under real pressure. Training emotional discipline daily is like exercising. You will not see obvious progress every day, but over time, the accumulation will transform you. One day, you might suddenly realize you are in the middle of a heated debate, and yet you are speaking slowly, your eyes are steady, and your thoughts are clear. That is the result of hundreds, even thousands of moments of practice before. Understand that the calm you show today is the result of the choices you have repeated for days and months. And if you have not started, today is the time. You do not need a special situation to start the next time someone annoys you. Just one pause, one deep breath, and one question: what outcome do I want from this? And you are already training your emotional discipline. When you do this often enough, you will realize something. Emotional discipline will no longer be something you have to strain yourself to keep. It will become a natural part of you, a habit so deeply ingrained that even when the storm comes, you are still the one holding the wheel firmly. One of the most important skills for mastering your reactions is learning how to separate yourself from your emotions. It sounds simple, but in reality, it is a big challenge because when emotions rise, we often believe they are who we are. You feel angry and think, I am a hot-tempered person. You feel anxious and think, I am weak. But the truth is, you are not your emotions. You are simply experiencing them. And like clouds, emotions will pass if you do not cling to them. Separating yourself from emotions does not mean ignoring or suppressing them. It means observing them, as if you are standing outside watching a scene from a film instead of being pulled into the story. When you do this, you can see more clearly, here is anger showing up. Here is anxiety creeping in. Here is hurt knocking at the door. This act of naming shifts your brain from reaction mode to analysis mode, and that shift alone helps you regain control. I learned a principle from Special Forces soldiers. In critical situations, emotional distance is what keeps them alive. They do not allow fear to take command. They look at the facts, assess the situation, and act according to strategy. You can apply the same principle in everyday life. When provoked, instead of jumping into the role immediately, take a mental step back. Imagine yourself standing in the corner of the room, observing the entire situation as a spectator. When you are no longer at the center of the storm, you will see options that your emotions had previously hidden from you. This habit takes practice, and it starts with small situations. When you notice yourself feeling tense, ask, if I were watching someone else go through this, what would I advise them to do? This question pulls you out of the main role and places you in the advisor's seat, where reason has more room to speak. Separating yourself from emotions also protects your relationships. In many arguments, the real problem is not the content of the conversation, but the emotions being triggered. If you react while under the influence of those emotions, your words will attack instead of resolve. But if you step back far enough, you will see what the core issue is, what is worth holding on to, and what is worth letting go. This is also how you keep others from controlling you through your own emotions. Once they know which button makes you explode, they will press it every time they want the upper hand. When you can separate yourself from your emotions, you lock that button and the control returns to you. And when you live by this principle long enough, others will notice that you are not easily drawn into their emotional games. They will change how they approach you because they know their tactics to provoke you no longer work. Remember, you cannot stop the waves of emotion from coming, but you can choose not to be swept away. Separating yourself from your emotions is the board that keeps you afloat, giving you the time and space to choose your direction. And when you know how to do that, you are not just controlling your reactions, you are steering your entire course. There is a simple but powerful technique that people who are skilled at controlling their reactions often use. Instead of responding immediately, they ask a question. It may sound gentle, but in reality, it can completely change the course of a conversation. When we are attacked, our instinct is to fire back to protect our ego. We want to prove we are right to regain the upper hand. But the problem is that firing back right away often escalates the situation and puts us in a position where we are being led. Asking a question is different. It slows the pace, pulls the other person out of attack mode, and moves the conversation to more neutral ground. A simple question like, can you explain that more clearly? Or, what do you mean by that? Forces the other person to pause and think instead of continuing to attack. This not only gives you more time to stay calm, it also makes the other person shift from an emotional state to a rational one. In my legal practice, I have seen how powerful this technique can be. Once, in a trial, the other side used provocative language to try to make me react in anger. If I had taken the bait, I would have lost credibility in front of the jury. Instead, I looked straight at them and asked, "Can you tell me exactly what you are basing that statement on?" In that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed. They had to slow down, and I regained control. When you use a question instead of a comeback, you send a powerful message. I do not let my emotions control me. I am here to find the truth and the best outcome. This is not weakness, it is strategy. It is like pulling your opponent out of the battlefield they have prepared and bringing them onto your own territory. Questions also have the effect of uncovering information you may not know. Often, what makes you upset comes from a misunderstanding. A question can clarify the real intent and help you avoid unnecessary conflict. But for this technique to work, you must keep your tone calm and neutral. If the question carries sarcasm or challenge, it loses its effect and becomes a disguised form of retaliation. Its power lies in sincerity and the desire to understand, not the desire to win. Practice this technique in small situations first. When someone makes a comment you disagree with, instead of pushing back, ask, "Can you give me more details?" When a colleague criticizes your idea, ask, what concerns you most if we go in this direction? When your child misbehaves, ask, what do you think will happen if you keep doing that? These questions not only help you stay calm, they also guide the conversation toward a constructive path. Using questions instead of comebacks is how you turn tension into opportunity and conflict into dialogue. It allows you to protect your character, maintain control, and increase your chances of getting the result you want. Because in communication, the one who controls the pace is the one who controls the outcome. And when you make this technique a habit, you will notice something clearly. In most situations, victory is not about saying more. It is about asking the right question. One of the biggest traps that makes people lose control in communication and decision-making is letting the ego take the lead. When someone says something that touches your pride, your first instinct is, I have to win, I have to prove I am right. The problem is that while trying to win in a small moment, you may lose the bigger goal. The truth is not every victory is beneficial. Some victories bring worse consequences than defeat because they only satisfy the ego while damaging relationships, breaking trust, or making the path to your goal harder. Those who master their emotions understand that the ego only cares about the immediate feeling while the goal cares about the long-term outcome. That is why they always ask themselves before reacting, will this bring me closer to the result I want? If the answer is no, they know they need to adjust their actions. I've been in many situations as a lawyer where winning an argument did nothing to help the case and even caused me to lose an advantage. In those moments, I had to choose protect my ego or protect the result. And I learned that the truly strong person is not the one who wins every small battle, but the one who is wise enough to walk away from unnecessary fights and save their energy for the ultimate goal. Focusing on results requires you to see everything from a strategic perspective. Instead of asking, how can I be right? Ask, how can this end in the best way possible? Instead of reacting to satisfy emotion, react to serve the goal. This is not easy because the ego always wants to speak. It will push you to rebut, to make a sarcastic remark, or to prove you are superior. But if you let it win, you will often lose in more important ways. Keeping a long-term vision also prevents you from being drawn into the game others want you to play. Many people provoke not because they care about the truth, but because they want you to lose your temper and drift away from your goal. If you keep your focus on the result, you will not fall into that trap. You will know when to speak and how to speak, so the situation moves toward the outcome you want. One principle I always remind myself of is, what is my goal? When you keep that question in mind, it becomes the filter for everything you say and do. Every time you are about to respond, let that question run through first. If your reaction does not move the situation closer to your goal, have the courage to stay silent or choose a different approach. This is the difference between reacting out of emotion and reacting out of strategy. When you focus on results, you are not carried away by every passing wave of emotion. You become the one steering the boat, not the one drifting wherever the waves take you. And when you can maintain this, you will find that you not only communicate better, but also achieve more in work, in relationships, and in your life as a whole. Anger is a powerful form of energy. If you let it control you, it can destroy years of effort in just a few seconds. But if you know how to redirect it, that same energy can become a powerful force driving you forward. The difference is not whether you feel anger or not, it is what you decide to do with it. The person who loses control will let anger explode, spilling out in words, actions, or reckless decisions. The person who masters themselves will turn it into fuel for purposeful action. Instead of throwing it into a pointless argument, they channel it into improving the situation, developing themselves, or creating new value. I have seen this not only in my work, but also in my personal life. There were times when an unjust situation made my blood boil. Years ago, I would have immediately fired back, trying to win at all costs. But I realized that winning in that way only drained me and led nowhere. Instead, I learned to take a step back, breathe deeply, and ask myself, what action can I take from this feeling to change what I am unhappy about? That question was the turning point. Instead of wasting energy fighting against someone, I began using it to strengthen my skills, expand my knowledge, or build new projects. The result was that what used to be my weakness became my strength. When anger is transformed, it not only makes you stronger, it helps you regain control. Because when you act proactively, you are no longer a puppet being pulled by emotions. You are leading yourself. This is also why many athletes, artists, and successful entrepreneurs say that the failures or criticism they once received became their greatest motivation. They do not deny anger or disappointment, they use it. They turn pain into discipline, anger into determination, and pressure into achievement. The important thing is to have a meaningful outlet for this energy. It could be physical training, creative work, learning a new skill, or solving a long-standing problem. When you channel your energy into specific action, you are rewriting the story from I lost control to I controlled and redirected my emotions. Remember, anger itself is neither good nor bad. It is just a signal. It shows that something important to you is being threatened or unmet. When you understand the signal, you can choose a smarter response. Instead of letting it destroy, let it build. Instead of using it to burn a bridge, use it to build a new one. Turning anger into constructive action is not something you do once and forget. It is a habit, and like any other habit, it must be practiced consistently. Every time you choose to turn anger into progress instead of a comeback, you train yourself in a special kind of strength, one that no one can take away because it lies in how you use your own energy. And when you can maintain this, you will realize a clear truth. You no longer fear the arrival of anger because you know that each time it shows up, it is not a sign you are about to lose control. It is an opportunity to take a new step forward. Calm is not a passive state, nor is it a gift you are lucky to be born with. It is a conscious choice made over and over again until it becomes instinct. And when you understand this, you will see that calm is not just a communication skill, it is a life strategy. The truth is, in any situation, the person who stays calm always holds the advantage. When others are in a rush, you see more clearly. When others are swept away by emotions, you can still calculate your next move. Calm is the foundation of every wise decision, and the shield that protects you from words or actions you will later regret. Many people see calm as the reaction you should have when facing a big event, yet they neglect to train it every day. They hope that when tension arises, they will somehow know how to remain calm. But in reality, if you do not practice it in the small moments, when someone cuts in line, when you receive a disrespectful email, when your plans are changed at the last minute, it will be hard to keep it when facing real pressure. Calm is the result of hundreds of small choices made beforehand. Keeping calm does not mean staying silent and letting others do whatever they want. On the contrary, it helps you say what needs to be said in a tone and at a time that makes others truly listen. Calm does not make you weaker, it gives your words more weight. In a noisy world, the person who does not need to shout to be heard is often the one most respected. Keeping calm as a way of life also means you do not let others decide the rhythm of your heartbeat. No one has the power to make you lose control unless you give it to them. When you choose calm, you take back the initiative from others, and once you have that initiative, it changes how you live and how others respond to you. Of course, there will be times you fail, there will be days when you lose your calm, but the difference is that you notice it and return to it quickly. Calm is not perfection, it is consistency. It does not require you to always be right, but it does require you to always try to control what you can yourself. Let calm be the principle you carry everywhere. In the meeting room, at the dining table, when driving, when talking to loved ones, because once you make it a natural part of yourself, you will see one clear thing. The world can no longer pull you into chaos so easily. And when you walk through difficult days with steady composure, you are not only solving the problem in front of you, you are also sending a powerful message. You are someone who can be trusted. Calm not only helps you overcome challenges, it makes you the person others turn to when they need guidance. And that is a form of lasting power, a power that does not come from controlling others, but from controlling yourself. In the end, everything we have talked about today comes down to one thing. You have the power to master your reactions and shape your life, starting with the smallest choices you make each day. You do not need to wait for inspiration or for the perfect moment. You only need to decide to show up, to stay calm, and to stand firm in what you believe is right. True strength does not lie in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself. And when you can do that, you do not just change the outcome, you change the person you become. I know this journey is not easy. There will be days when you are tired and moments when you want to give up. But each time you choose persistence, each time you stay calm instead of exploding, each time you place discipline above emotion, you are planting another seed for the life you want. And one day when you look back, you will see that you have gone much further than where you started. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen and walk with me until this very moment. I hope that what we have shared today will not remain only as thoughts, but will turn into action. Action to help you live a life that is intentional, peaceful, and full of strength. I wish all of you health, resilience, and peace on your own journey.